Jake Morrison stepped off the transport ship and looked up at the massive buildings in front of him. The Galactic Military Academy stretched across the horizon like a metal city. Towers of silver and blue glass reached toward the purple sky of Zarian Prime. He had never seen anything so big in his life. Other cadets walked past him, and Jake realized he was the only human among them. A creature with 4 arms and scales covering its body glanced at him with yellow eyes. Another being that looked like it was made of living crystal floated by without making a sound. Jake picked up his bag and followed the crowd toward the main building. The academy had been training the best warriors from across the galaxy for over 200 years. Jake was the first human ever accepted into the program. He knew many people back on Earth were watching to see if he would succeed or fail. Inside the main hall, hundreds of cadets stood in groups. They came from dozens of different worlds and species. Some had claws instead of hands. Others had extra eyes or tentacles. A few looked like they could break Jake in half without trying hard. "Attention, new cadets," a deep voice called out. General Vextar walked onto the stage. He was a member of the Corfax species, with green scales and sharp teeth. His uniform was covered in medals from many wars. "Welcome to the Galactic Military Academy. You are here because your species believes you have what it takes to become officers in the Federation military." The general's eyes found Jake in the crowd. "Some of you may wonder why we have lowered our standards this year. I assure you that every cadet here will be tested equally. Those who cannot meet our requirements will be sent home." Jake felt his face turn red. The general was talking about him without saying his name. Around him, other cadets turned to look at the only human in the room. "You will now be assigned to your training squads," General Vextar continued. "Report to your squad leaders immediately." A holographic display showed the squad assignments. Jake found his name under Squad 7. He walked to the designated area and waited with 3 other cadets. "So you are the human," said a voice behind him. Jake turned to see a tall female with 6 arms. Her skin was pale blue, and her eyes were completely black. "I am Zara Velphus, your squad leader. I am from the Nexari warrior caste. Nice to meet you," Jake said, holding out his hand. Zara looked at it for a moment before shaking it with one of her 6 hands. "This is Brix," she said, pointing to the crystal being Jake had seen earlier. Up close, he could see that Brix's body was made of thousands of small crystals that moved and shifted like muscles. "He is from the Shard homeworld." The 4th member of their squad was massive. He stood at least 8 feet tall and looked like he was made of solid muscle. His skin was gray and covered in scars. "Krex," the giant said in a voice like grinding stone. "Eurokian battle clan." "Jake Morrison," Jake replied. "From Earth." Krex laughed, a sound like rocks falling down a mountain. "Earth? The soft world? What weapons do you grow there, human?" "We don't grow weapons," Jake said. "We make them." "Make them?" Brix's voice sounded like wind chimes. "How strange. On our world, we are born with all the weapons we need." Zara raised one of her hands for silence. "Enough talking. We have work to do. Follow me to our training area." They walked through the academy halls. Jake saw other squads practicing combat moves. One group was fighting with energy swords that could cut through steel. Another squad was practicing with weapons that fired bolts of lightning. Their training area was a large room with padded walls and floors. In the center stood several training dummies made of a metal that could repair itself when damaged. "Today we will test your basic combat skills," Zara said. "Each of you will demonstrate your species' natural fighting abilities." Brix went first. His crystal body shifted and changed until his arms became sharp blades. He moved faster than Jake could follow, cutting the training dummy into pieces in seconds. The metal began to reform immediately. Krex stepped forward next. He grabbed the dummy with his bare hands and crushed it like paper. Then he punched it so hard that the metal flew across the room and hit the wall. Zara's turn was like watching a dance. All 6 of her arms moved at once, striking the dummy from every angle. Her movements were so fast and smooth that Jake could barely see individual attacks. "Your turn, human," Zara said. Jake approached the training dummy. He had no claws, no extra arms, no crystal body that could become weapons. He was just a human with 2 regular hands and feet. He threw a punch at the dummy. It made a small dent. The other 3 cadets watched in silence. "Is that all?" Krex asked. "On my world, children hit harder than that. Perhaps humans are not meant for combat," Brix said. "Maybe they are better suited for other tasks." Jake felt angry, but kept his face calm. "Maybe," he said. "But I'm here to learn." Zara looked at him with her black eyes. "Yes, you are here to learn. But learning requires surviving first. The Academy's training programs are designed for species with natural weapons and enhanced abilities. How will you keep up?" "I don't know yet," Jake admitted. "But I'll figure it out." "Figure it out?" Krex laughed again. "Combat is not a puzzle to solve, human. It is about strength and speed and the will to kill." "Maybe for you," Jake said quietly. "But every species fights differently." That night, Jake sat in his small room and looked out the window at the alien stars. He thought about his conversation with his father before leaving Earth. "Son," his father had said, "you're going to be different from everyone else at that academy. They'll be stronger and faster than you. But remember something important. Humans didn't become the dominant species on Earth by being the strongest or fastest. We became dominant by being the smartest." Jake pulled out his tablet and began reading about his squad mate's species. The Nexari were known for their speed and precision. The Shardborn could reshape their bodies into any weapon they needed. The Eurokians had conquered 3 star systems through pure physical strength. But Jake noticed something interesting in the files. Every one of these species had evolved as apex predators on their home worlds. They had always been at the top of their food chains. Humans were different. They had evolved as prey animals who survived by working together and thinking their way out of problems. Maybe that was why he felt so out of place here. The next morning brought their first real challenge. The squad was assigned to a combat simulation against Academy defense drones. Jake watched as his teammates prepared for battle. Brix's body glowed with energy. Krex cracked his knuckles, making sounds like breaking bones. Zara checked her equipment with all 6 hands. "Remember," Zara said, "these drones are programmed to fight like real enemies. They will try to kill you. Stay alert and work together." The simulation began. Immediately, 3 drones attacked their position. Jake's squad mates charged forward to meet them. Jake hung back, watching how the drones moved and fought. He saw something the others missed. The drones were following preset patterns, just like the training programs back on Earth. If he could figure out the pattern, he could predict their moves. As his squad fought, Jake noticed that one drone had broken away from the others and was trying to flank them. He picked up a piece of debris and threw it at the drone's sensor array. The impact didn't damage it, but it confused the machine for a few seconds. That was enough time for Zara to destroy it with a precise strike. "Good spotting, human," she said as the simulation ended. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Jake was beginning to understand that his role in the squad might be different from what everyone expected. He might not be the strongest or fastest, but maybe he could be the one who saw what others missed. The Academy had 200 years of tradition behind it. But Jake Morrison was about to show them something they had never seen before. He was going to show them what humans could do when they really tried. 3 weeks passed quickly at the academy. Jake worked harder than he had ever worked in his life. Every morning began with physical training that left him exhausted. Every afternoon brought combat lessons that showed him how far behind he was compared to his alien classmates. But Jake was learning. He watched everything and everyone around him. He studied how each species fought and moved. He began to understand their strengths and weaknesses. The other cadets still looked at him like he didn't belong. In the dining hall, conversations stopped. When he walked by, some cadets whispered behind his back. Others just stared at him like he was some kind of strange animal. "They think you're a joke," Krex said one evening after training. The big Eurokian was being unusually honest. "They say humans only got into the academy because of politics, not because you earned it. What do you think?" Jake asked. Krex shrugged his massive shoulders. "I think you're weak. But you're not stupid. Maybe that counts for something." It wasn't exactly a compliment, but it was better than what most cadets thought of him. Combat assessment week arrived like a storm. Every cadet had to face the Academy's defense drones in single combat. It was a test that had been used for decades to measure a cadet's basic fighting ability. Jake watched from the observation deck as his classmates took their turns. A Volteran cadet with electrical powers fried 3 drones in seconds. A Korthik female used her claws to slice through drone armor like it was paper. Every test seemed to end the same way. The cadet would overpower the drones through raw strength or natural weapons. "Cadet Morrison, report to Arena 7. The announcement echoed through the halls. Jake walked down to the arena floor. The space was circular, about 50 feet across, with metal walls that reached up to the observation deck. In the center, 3 defense drones waited in standby mode. They looked like floating spheres covered in weapons and sensors. Above him, Jake could see hundreds of cadets watching from the observation deck. Many of them were pointing at him and talking among themselves. He heard laughter from somewhere in the crowd. "Begin assessment," the computer voice announced. The 3 drones activated immediately. Red lights glowed from their sensor arrays as they scanned Jake and identified him as a target. They spread out to surround him, just like they had been programmed to do. Jake didn't charge forward like the other cadets had done. Instead, he ran toward the arena wall. The drones followed him, firing energy blasts that left smoking holes. In the metal behind him. As he reached the wall, Jake grabbed a piece of loose metal paneling and yanked it free. The drones were closing in fast, their weapons charging for another volley. But Jake had noticed something during the weeks of training. The arena had been used for thousands of tests over the years. The walls and floor were covered with blast marks and damage. Some of the metal panels were loose. Some of the floor tiles were cracked. Jake threw the metal panel at the nearest drone. It wasn't heavy enough to damage the machine, but it blocked the drone's sensors for a moment. That was all the time Jake needed to dive behind a section of wall that had been blasted apart during a previous test. The drones regrouped and came after him. Jake waited until they were close, then kicked at a damaged floor tile. The tile came loose and flew up into the air. One of the drones tried to dodge, but flew directly into the path of another drone. They collided with a crash of metal and sparks. 2 drones down, 1 to go. The last drone was smarter. It stayed back and fired energy blasts at Jake's hiding spot. The metal around him began to heat up and melt. He had to move or be cooked alive. Jake looked around the arena and saw what he needed. In one corner, there was a drainage grate that had been damaged during some previous test. The grate was loose and hanging by just a few bolts. He ran toward the grate with the drone following close behind. Energy blasts exploded around his feet as he reached the corner. Jake grabbed the loose grate and swung it like a club just as he. The drone came within range. The heavy metal grate smashed into the drone's sensor array. Sparks flew as the machine spun out of control and crashed into the arena wall. Silence filled the arena. Then, slowly, applause began from the observation deck. Not from all the cadets, but from some of them. Jake looked up and saw Zara clapping. With 4 of her 6 hands. "Assessment complete," the computer announced. "All targets neutralized. Time, 4 minutes, 37 seconds. Jake walked off the arena floor, his heart still pounding. He had done it. He had passed the test. But more importantly, he had done it his way. In the hallway, outside the arena, he found someone waiting for him. She was human, wearing the uniform of a captain in the Earth Colonial Defense Force. She had short brown hair and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. "Cadet Morrison," she said. "I'm Captain Lynn Rodriguez. I've been watching your progress here at the Academy." "Captain," Jake said, standing at attention. "I didn't know there were other humans at the Academy." "I'm here on an exchange program," she explained. "Training with alien military forces and sharing human tactical knowledge. I've been very interested in how you've been adapting to the Academy's training methods." They walked together down the corridor. Other cadets moved aside to let them pass. "You fought those drones differently than any cadet I've seen," Captain Rodriguez said. "Most species rely on their natural advantages. Speed, strength, energy. Projection. Natural weapons. You use the environment itself as a weapon." "It seemed like the smart thing to do," Jake replied. "The drones were programmed to fight against direct attacks. I figured if I could be unpredictable, I might have a chance." "Exactly," the captain smiled. "That's very human thinking. We didn't evolve as apex predators like most of the species. Here, we evolved as persistence hunters. We survived by being smarter than our prey, not stronger." They reached the captain's office, a small room filled with books and star charts. Captain Rodriguez gestured for Jake to sit down. "I need to warn you about something," she said, her voice becoming serious. "There are some people at this academy who don't want you to succeed. They think humans are too weak to be effective military officers." "I've noticed," Jake said. "General Vexstar made that pretty clear on the first day. It's worse than you think. I've heard rumors about a special evaluation being planned. Something designed specifically to prove that humans don't belong here." Jake felt his stomach drop. "What kind of evaluation?" "I don't know the details yet, but I want you to be prepared. Whatever they throw at you, remember that you don't have to beat them at their own game. You just have to win." That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He lay in his bed, thinking about what Captain Rodriguez had said. A special evaluation designed to prove humans didn't belong at the Academy. What could that mean? He thought about his performance in the arena that day. For the first time since arriving at the Academy, he had felt like he was using his real abilities. Not trying to be stronger or faster than the alien cadets, but being smarter and more adaptable. The next morning brought news that confirmed his fears. General Vexstar announced a new training exercise called the Apex Trials. Each cadet would face a captured predator from one of the galaxy's most dangerous worlds. It was supposed to test how future officers would handle unexpected threats in the field. But Jake knew better. This was the special evaluation Captain Rodriguez had warned him about. This was designed to get him killed, or at least badly injured enough that he would have to leave the Academy. As the general explained the rules. Jake felt eyes watching him from around the room. Some cadets looked excited about the challenge. Others looked worried. But several faculty members were staring directly at him, and their expressions were not friendly. "The trials will begin in 1 week, General Vexstar announced. Each cadet will face a creature selected specifically for their abilities and training level. This will be a true test of your combat skills and survival instincts." After the announcement, Jake walked back to his room, feeling like he was carrying a heavy weight. 1 week to prepare for a fight against some kind of alien monster. 1 week to figure out how to survive something that was probably designed to kill him. But as he sat down at his desk and opened his tablet, Jake felt something else besides fear. He felt determined. They wanted to prove he didn't belong here. They wanted to show that humans were too weak for the Galactic Military Academy. He was going to prove them wrong. Jake began researching every apex predator he could find in the Academy's database. He studied their hunting patterns, their weaknesses, their behavioral traits. He read about the worlds they came from and the prey they hunted. Most importantly, he studied how other species had fought these creatures in the past. Almost every recorded battle was the same. Warrior meets monster in direct combat, and the stronger one wins. But Jake was beginning to understand something important. He didn't have to be stronger than the monster. He just had to be smarter. And if there was one thing humans were good at, it was outsmarting creatures that should have been able to kill them. The week of preparation was about to begin, and Jake Morrison was going to show the Galactic Military Academy what humans could really do. The week of preparation felt like the longest week of Jake's life. Every morning he woke up knowing he was 1 day closer to facing whatever creature the Academy had chosen for him. Every night he went to sleep with his mind racing through different scenarios and strategies. General Vextar had made the trial assignments public on the 3rd day. Jake found his name on the list and felt his blood turn cold. His opponent was listed as Razormaw and Fortis Prime. Below that, in smaller text, it said, Previous Academy demonstrations. 3. Casualties. 3. 3 experienced hunters had died fighting this creature during Academy training exercises. And now they were putting a first-year cadet against it. Jake immediately went to the Academy's database to learn everything he could about Razormaws. What he found made his situation seem even more hopeless. The Razormaw was an apex predator from Infernus Prime, a volcanic world where the surface temperature could melt steel. The creature stood 12 feet tall and weighed over 2 tons. Its body was covered in crystalline bone spikes that could cut through armor. Its claws dripped with acid that could dissolve most metals. Most terrifying of all, it had reflexes fast enough to track and catch creatures that moved at supersonic speeds. The files showed video footage of previous encounters. Jake watched as experienced warriors with advanced weapons were torn apart by the creature's incredible speed and strength. Even energy weapons seemed to barely slow it down. Enjoying your research? A voice asked behind him. Jake turned to see Zara standing in the doorway of the library. Her 6 arms were crossed, and her black eyes looked concerned. Just trying to understand what I'm up against, Jake said. Zara walked over and sat down across from him. I have been thinking about your trial assignment. It is not fair. Fair isn't really the point, is it? Jake replied. They want me to fail. This is just their way of making sure it happens. Perhaps. But I have been watching you for weeks now. You do not fight like other species. You do not rely on strength or speed. You think your way through problems. Jake looked up from the tablet. What are you saying? I am saying that maybe the way you think is exactly what you need to survive this trial. Zara leaned forward. The Razormaw is a perfect killing machine. It evolved to hunt the fastest and strongest prey on its world. But it did not evolve to hunt something that thinks like you do. She pulled out her own tablet and showed Jake a detailed analysis of the creature's behavior patterns. I have been studying it as well. Look at this. The screen showed a breakdown of the Razormaw's hunting strategy. It relied on overwhelming speed and strength to catch prey that tried to run or fight back directly. Its entire nervous system was designed for quick, aggressive attacks. Every creature that has fought this thing has tried to match its speed and strength, Zara explained. They all failed because they were playing the Razormaw's game. But what if you played a different game entirely? Jake studied the data. You're saying I shouldn't try to fight it the way everyone else has. I am saying you should fight it the way a human would fight it, not the way a Korthic or Eurokian would fight it. Over the next 3 days, Jake and Zara worked together to analyze every detail of the Razor Maw's physiology and behavior. They discovered several interesting facts that previous fighters had overlooked. First, a creature's incredible speed came at a cost. Its nervous system was so focused on quick reactions that it had trouble adapting to unexpected situations. Once it committed to an attack pattern, it couldn't change course easily. Second, the Razor Maw's crystalline bone spikes were incredibly hard, but they were also brittle. Too much sudden pressure in the wrong direction could crack them. Third, and most importantly, the creature's sensory organs were designed for the low-light environment of its volcanic homeworld. Sudden bright light or unexpected visual stimuli could temporarily confuse it. There, Zara said, pointing to a nerve cluster at the base of the creature's skull. That is where its motor control center is located. If you could strike there with enough force, you could disable it without killing it. How much force are we talking about? Jake asked. More than you possess, Zara admitted. But perhaps you do not need to hit it harder. Perhaps you need to hit it smarter. Jake stared at the anatomical diagram. An idea was beginning to form in his mind. It was crazy and dangerous, but it might actually work. I need to ask you something, Jake said. Why are you helping me? Your own people might not approve of a Nexari warrior helping a human. Zara was quiet for a moment. Because I have been watching you since you arrived. You are different from the other cadets. You do not try to prove you are stronger or faster than everyone else. You just try to solve problems in the best way you can. She stood up and gathered her tablets. That is what a good officer does. And I think you will be a good officer if you survive long enough to become one. The night before the trial, Jake couldn't eat dinner. His stomach was tied in knots, and his hands were shaking. He sat in his room, going over his plan again and again. There was a knock at his door. When he opened it, he found Captain Rodriguez standing in the hallway. "How are you feeling?" she asked. "Terrified," Jake admitted, "but ready." "Good. Terror keeps you alive. Overconfidence gets you killed." She handed him a small device. "This is a recording beacon. It will broadcast everything that happens in the arena to Earth Command. Whatever happens tomorrow, people will know the truth about what you faced." Jake took the device. It was small enough to fit in his pocket. "Thank you, Captain." "There's something else you should know," she said. "I've been in contact with Earth Command about your situation. They're watching this trial very closely. If you survive, there will be changes made to how humans are evaluated at this academy. And if I don't survive," Captain Rodriguez looked him in the eye, "then you'll have died proving that humans don't give up, even when the odds are impossible. That's worth something too." After she left, Jake sat on his bed and thought about home. He thought about his father and the last conversation they'd had. He thought about the billions of humans back on Earth who were counting on him to prove that their species belonged among the stars. Tomorrow, he would face a creature that had killed 3 experienced warriors. Tomorrow, he would either prove that humans deserved their place in the galaxy, or he would die trying. Jake looked at the anatomical charts scattered across his desk. He had memorized every detail of the Razor Maw's biology. He knew exactly where its weak points were and how its nervous system worked. He had a plan that just might work, but plans had a way of falling apart when you came face to face with 12 feet of crystalline death. Jake closed his eyes and tried to sleep. In less than 12 hours, he would walk into the Academy's main arena. The entire student body would be watching. The faculty would be watching. People back on Earth would be watching. And somewhere in the depths of the Academy, A creature from a world of fire and death was waiting to kill him. The trial was called Apex Trials because it was supposed to test cadets against the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. But Jake was beginning to understand that the real test wasn't about fighting monsters. The real test was about proving that sometimes the most dangerous predator in the galaxy was the one that looked completely harmless until it was too late. Jake Morrison was about to show the Galactic Military Academy what that looked like. The morning of the trial arrived gray and cold. Jake ate a small breakfast and checked his equipment one final time. He had been allowed to bring basic academy training gear, a simple uniform, standard boots, and nothing else. No weapons, no armor, no advanced technology. Just a human hand. His ability to think. As he walked toward the arena, Jake saw other cadets lining the hallways. Some looked excited about the upcoming spectacle. Others looked worried. A few looked like they were watching a funeral procession. Maybe they were. The arena doors opened, and Jake stepped into the space where he would either prove himself or die trying. The crowd in the observation deck fell silent as he walked to the center of the arena floor. Above him, General Vextar's voice echoed through the speakers. Cadet Morrison, you will face the Razor Maw in single combat. The trial ends when either you or the creature is unable to continue. Are you prepared? Jake looked up at the observation deck. He could see Captain Rodriguez watching from the faculty section. He could see Zara and his other squad mates in the cadet section. Hundreds of alien eyes were staring down at him. I'm ready, Jake said. A massive door on the far side of the arena began to open. From the darkness beyond came a sound, like grinding stone and breaking glass. A Razor Maw was coming. Jake took a deep breath and got ready to show them what humans could do. The arena fell completely silent as the massive door slid open. Even the air seemed to stop moving as everyone waited to see the creature that had killed 3 experienced warriors. The Razor Maw stepped out of the darkness like a nightmare maid. Real, 12 feet of crystalline depth, its body covered in bone spikes that caught the arena lights and threw them back in sharp, painful flashes. Its claws dripped with acid that hissed and steamed on the arena floor. Its eyes were like black holes, absorbing light and giving nothing back. Jake had seen the videos and studied the anatomical charts. But seeing the creature in person was different. It was bigger than he had imagined. More terrifying. More obviously capable of tearing him apart without breaking a sweat. The Razor Maw's head turned toward Jake. Its nostrils flared as it caught his scent. Then it opened its mouth and let out a roar that shook the arena walls. The sound was like 1,000 pieces of glass breaking at once. In the observation deck, Jake could hear cadets placing bets on how long he would last. Most of them were betting in seconds, not minutes. 50 credits says the human lasts less than 30 seconds, someone called out. I'll take that bet, another voice replied. I say 20 seconds. General Vextar's voice echoed through the arena. Trial begins in 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7. Jake bent down and scooped up a handful of sand from the arena floor. The sand was coarse and gritty, left over from a previous trial. He had noticed it when he first walked into the arena. Most people would have ignored it as just debris. But Jake had been looking for anything that might help him survive. 3, 2, 1, begin. The barriers around the arena's edge powered down. The Razor Maw was free to attack. It didn't waste any time. The creature launched itself forward with incredible speed, its crystalline claws extended and ready to tear Jake apart. It moved so fast that most of the watching cadets couldn't even follow its movement. But Jake had been expecting this. He had studied the creature's attack patterns. He knew it would charge straight at him, relying on speed and overwhelming force. To end the fight quickly, instead of trying to dodge or run, Jake did something completely unexpected. He dropped to one knee and threw the handful of sand directly at the Razor Maw's face. The sand hit the creature's eyes and nostrils just as it was about to strike. The Razor Maw, which had been moving at full speed, suddenly found itself blinded and confused. It tried to change direction, but its momentum was too great. The massive predator stumbled and crashed into the arena wall behind where Jake had been. Standing, chunks of metal fell from the wall as the creature's crystalline spikes gouged deep grooves in the reinforced barriers. Jake was already moving. While the Razor Maw was disoriented, he ran to the creature's left side. He had memorized the location of the nerve cluster at the base of its skull. If he could strike there with enough precision, he might be able to disable it, but the creature was already recovering. It shook its head to clear the sand from its eyes and turned toward Jake with a snarl of rage. Acid dripped from its claws as it prepared for another attack. This time, Jake couldn't rely on surprise. The Razor Maw would be ready for tricks now. The creature charged again, but this time it was more careful. It kept its head up and its eyes clear. Its claws swept in wide arcs, making it impossible for Jake to get close to its weak spots. Jake dove to the side, rolling across the arena floor as the creature's claws passed inches from his head. He came up near the center of the arena, breathing hard and trying to think of another strategy. The Razor Maw circled him now, taking its time. It had learned that the small human was more dangerous than he looked. It wouldn't be fooled by simple tricks again. In the observation deck, the crowd was beginning to murmur. Jake had lasted longer than anyone expected. The creature should have killed him in the first few seconds, but somehow he was still alive. "How is the human still breathing?" someone asked. "Maybe the creature is playing with its food," another voice suggested. But Jake wasn't thinking about the crowd. He was thinking about the creature's movements. The Razor Maw was being more careful now, but that also meant it was being more predictable. It was falling into a pattern. The creature attacked again, this time with a sweeping claw strike that should have cut Jake in half. But Jake had been watching the creature's feet. He had noticed that the Razor Maw always shifted its weight to the right just before attacking with its left claw. Jake waited until he saw the weight shift, then dove forward instead of backward. The movement took him under the creature's attack and brought him close to its body. For a split second, Jake was inside the Razor Maw's reach. The creature's claws couldn't touch him here, but he was also within range of its teeth and could smell the acid on its breath. Jake didn't hesitate. He drove his fist upward toward the nerve cluster at the base of the creature's skull. It was the same spot Zara had shown him on the anatomical charts, the same spot that controlled the creature's motor functions. But Jake wasn't strong enough to damage the nerve cluster through brute force. He needed to be smarter than that. As his fist connected with the creature's skull, Jake did something that no other fighter had thought to try. Instead of punching straight through, he twisted his wrist and struck at an angle. The blow was designed to create a shockwave that would travel through the creature's crystalline bone structure. The Razor Maw's bones were incredibly hard, but they were also brittle. The shockwave from Jake's precisely placed strike traveled through the creature's skull and hit the nerve cluster with exactly the right frequency to disrupt its electrical signals. The effect was immediate. The Razor Maw's eyes rolled back, and its massive body went limp. It crashed to the arena floor like a falling tree, unconscious but still breathing. The arena was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. Everyone was staring at the unconscious predator and the small human standing over it. Jake stepped back from the creature and looked up at the observation deck. He could see the shock on every face. General Vexstar was standing at the edge of the faculty section, his mouth open in disbelief. "Trial complete," the computer voice announced. "Creature disabled." Victor, Cadet Morrison. The silence broke like a dam bursting. The arena erupted in noise as hundreds of cadets began talking at once. Some were cheering. Others were arguing about what they had just seen. A few were demanding to know how a human had done something that 3 experienced warriors couldn't. Jake looked down at the razor maw. The creature was still breathing, its massive chest rising and falling slowly. He had knocked it unconscious without seriously injuring it. That had been part of his plan. He wanted to prove that humans could win without unnecessary killing. Medical teams rushed into the arena to check on both Jake and the creature. A doctor ran a scanner over Jake's body, looking for injuries from acid burns or claw marks. Somehow, Jake had come through the fight without a scratch. "How did you do that?" the doctor asked. "The creature never even touched you." "I didn't try to fight it," Jake explained. "I just tried to solve the problem it presented." General Vextar walked down from the observation deck. His green scales looked darker than usual, and his expression was unreadable. He stopped in front of Jake and stared down at him for a long moment. "Explain what happened," the general demanded. Jake took a deep breath. "The razor maw is a perfect predator for its environment. It evolved to hunt fast, strong prey that would try to outrun it or overpower it. But it never evolved to hunt something that would use tactics and precision instead of strength. You threw sand at it," General Vextar said, "like a child throwing dirt." "I temporarily blinded it during its initial charge," Jake corrected. "The creature relies on visual targeting for its attacks. Without clear vision, its speed became a disadvantage because it couldn't change direction quickly enough." The general's eyes narrowed. "And the final strike?" "Our medical scans show no significant damage to the creature." "How did you disable it?" "Without injuring it?" Jake pointed to the unconscious razor maw. "Its crystalline bone structure conducts vibrations very efficiently. I struck at the precise angle needed to create a shock wave that would disrupt the nerve cluster, controlling its motor functions. It's basically unconscious, not injured." "Impossible," General Vextar said. "The force required to create such a shock wave would be enormous. No human possesses that kind of strength." "You're right," Jake agreed. "I don't have that kind of strength, but I didn't need it. The creature's own bone structure amplified the force of my strike. I just had to hit the right spot at the right angle." Captain Rodriguez appeared beside the general. She had been watching from the faculty section, and her face showed a mixture of pride and amazement. "General, this cadet has just demonstrated something remarkable," she said. "He defeated a creature that has killed experienced warriors, and he did it without causing permanent harm. That shows both tactical skill and restraint." General Vextar looked from Captain Rodriguez to Jake and back again. This was supposed to be a test of combat ability. The cadet was expected to engage the creature in direct combat. "He did engage it in combat," Captain Rodriguez replied. "He just fought smarter instead of harder. Isn't that exactly what we want in our officers?" Other cadets were beginning to gather around the arena floor. Jake could see Zara pushing through the crowd. The news of Jake's victory spread through the academy faster than light. Within hours, cadets from every species were talking about the human who had defeated a razor maw with nothing but sand and a precisely placed punch. By the next morning, the story had reached every corner of the Galactic Federation. Jake woke up to find his room surrounded by reporters and academy officials. Captain Rodriguez was waiting outside his door with a tired smile on her face. "Welcome to fame," she said. "How does it feel to be the most talked about cadet in the galaxy?" "Confusing," Jake admitted. "Yesterday everyone thought I was a joke. Now they're treating me like some kind of hero." "That's what happens when you do something that changes people's minds," Captain Rodriguez explained. "Your victory wasn't just about beating one creature. It was about proving that humans think differently than everyone else in the galaxy. They walked together toward the Academy's main administration building. Along the way, cadets stopped to stare at Jake. Some nodded, respectfully. Others whispered among themselves. A few actually asked for his autograph. "This is weird," Jake said. "I'm still the same person I was yesterday." "No, you're not," Captain Rodriguez replied. "Yesterday, you were an unknown human trying to prove himself. Today, you're the human who showed the galaxy a new way to fight. That's a big difference." In the administration building, they found General Vextar waiting in his office. The Korthic general looked like he hadn't slept all night. His scales were dull, and his eyes were bloodshot. "Sit down," the general said without ceremony. "We need to talk." Jake took a seat across from the general's desk. Captain Rodriguez remained standing near the door. "I've been reviewing the footage of your trial," General Vextar began. "Our combat analysts have studied every second of your fight. With the Razor Maw, they want to understand exactly how you defeated it." "I've already explained that," Jake said. "I used the creature's own physiology against it." "Yes, but that's not the whole story, is it?" The general leaned forward. "You didn't just get lucky. You had a plan. You knew exactly what you were going to do before you ever entered that arena." Jake nodded. "I studied the creature for a week. I analyzed its behavior patterns, its anatomy, its hunting instincts. I developed a strategy based on that information. A strategy that no warrior from any other species has ever conceived," General Vextar said. "Do you understand what that means?" "It means I thought about the problem differently than they did. It means," the general said slowly, "that humans might be the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because of your strength or speed, but because of how your minds work." There was a knock at the office door. An aide entered and whispered something in General Vextar's ear. The general's expression grew even more serious. "Send her in," he said. The door opened again, and a woman in an Earth Defense Force admiral's uniform entered the room. She was tall and confident, with gray hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Admiral Beth Crawford," she introduced herself. "Commander of Earth's Colonial Defense Force. I came as soon as I heard about Cadet Morrison's performance." General Vextar stood up. "Admiral, I wasn't expecting you so soon." "I was already in this sector when the news reached me," Admiral Crawford explained. "I had to see for myself what happened here." She turned to Jake. "Cadet Morrison, I've watched the footage of your trial. I've read the combat analysis reports. What you did was remarkable." "Thank you, Admiral," Jake said. "I'm not here just to congratulate you," Admiral Crawford continued. "I'm here because your victory has created some interesting opportunities." She activated a holographic display that showed star charts and military formations. "The Galactic Federation has been fighting the same kinds of wars for centuries. Species with natural weapons face off against each other in direct combat. The strongest and fastest usually win." The display changed to show recent battle reports. "But we're facing new threats now. Enemy forces that don't follow traditional combat patterns. Pirates who use hit-and-run tactics. Rogue AI systems that think faster than biological minds. Traditional military approaches aren't always effective against these threats." "What are you suggesting?" General Vextar asked. "I'm suggesting that human tactical thinking might be exactly what the Federation military needs," Admiral Crawford replied. "Humans evolved as persistence hunters and problem solvers. We're naturally good at finding unconventional solutions to difficult problems." She gestured toward Jake. "Cadet Morrison proved that yesterday. He didn't try to overpower the Razor Maw. He analyzed its weaknesses and exploited them. That's a very human way of fighting." General Vextar was quiet for a long moment. "You want to change how the Academy trains its cadets." I want to expand how the Academy trains its cadets, Admiral Crawford corrected. Keep the traditional strength and speed training for species that excel at those things. But add human-style tactical training for everyone. Teach them to think like hunters instead of just fighters. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. The Admiral has a point, General. I've been observing Academy training methods for months. Most of the curriculum is based on overwhelming force and direct confrontation. There's very little emphasis on strategy or unconventional tactics. That's because those methods have worked for 200 years, General Vextar said. Against traditional enemies, Admiral Crawford agreed. But the galaxy is changing. New threats require new approaches. Jake listened to the conversation with growing excitement. They were talking about changing the entire Academy curriculum based on what he had done. They were talking about teaching other species to think like humans. What would this new training program look like? General Vextar asked. Admiral Crawford activated another holographic display. Joint training exercises where human cadets work with alien cadets to solve complex problems. War games that emphasize strategy over strength. Simulations that require unconventional thinking to win. And who would lead this program? The general asked. I'd like Cadet Morrison to be part of the development team, Admiral Crawford said, along with Captain Rodriguez and any Academy faculty who are interested in exploring new approaches. Jake felt his heart racing. They were offering him a chance to help redesign military training for the entire galaxy. It was an incredible opportunity. There's one more thing, Admiral Crawford added. The Federation Council has requested a demonstration of human tactical capabilities. They want to see if what happened in that arena was a fluke, or if it represents something larger. What kind of demonstration? Jake asked. A series of war games pitting human strategies against traditional Federation tactics. Admiral Crawford explained. If the human approaches prove effective, the Council will consider implementing them fleet-wide. General Vextar looked like he was struggling with a difficult decision. Finally, he spoke. I have spent my entire career believing that strength and speed were the most important qualities in a warrior. What happened yesterday has forced me to reconsider that belief. He stood up and walked to the window overlooking the Academy grounds. Very well. We will implement this new training program on a trial basis. Cadet Morrison, you will work with Captain Rodriguez and Admiral Crawford to develop the curricula. Thank you, General, Jake said. Don't thank me yet, General Vextar replied. You still have to prove that your methods can work consistently. One victory against one creature doesn't prove anything except that you got lucky. Over the next few weeks, Jake found himself at the center of a revolution in military thinking. Working with Captain Rodriguez and Admiral Crawford, he helped design new training exercises that emphasized problem-solving over brute force. The other cadets responded better than anyone expected. Zara excelled at the strategic planning exercises, using her natural tactical abilities in new ways. Brix discovered that his shape-changing abilities were perfect for infiltration and reconnaissance missions. Even Krex found that his massive strength was more effective when combined with careful planning. This is fascinating, Zara said during one of their joint exercises. I never realized how much more effective we could be when we combined our natural abilities with human-style tactical thinking. It's like having a new tool, Rix agreed. We still use our species' strengths, but now we use them more intelligently. The war games against traditional Federation tactics were scheduled for the end of the month. Jake would lead a mixed species team using human strategies against a team of experienced officers using conventional methods. The night before the war games, Jake sat in his room reviewing their battle plans. There was a knock at his door. When he opened it, he found General Vextar standing in the hallway. May I come in? The general asked. Jake stepped aside to let him enter. General Vexstar looked around the small room, taking in the star charts and tactical manuals scattered everywhere. "I owe you an apology," the general said. "When you first arrived at this academy, I believed you were here because of political pressure, not because you earned your place. I was wrong." "You weren't entirely wrong," Jake admitted. "I didn't belong here when I first arrived. I had to learn how to be worthy of the opportunity." "No," General Vexstar said firmly. "You belonged here from the beginning. You just needed time to show us what you could do." The general walked to the window and looked out at the alien stars. "Yoo-ha!